Sagari, Gavrilove, Sagari, okkupanti, Sagari. Vingabeda da shemoiqana okkupanti.
I wanted to begin with words of grateful to express my gratitude to Shota first and his team and the guys, I can say living together with him for 3 months on Rustaveli Prospect Avenue, and to express my gratitude to them for actually defeating the bad forces and trying to be the only actually effective tool to fight against occupation of the country, to fight against some state guys coming from Russia to Tbilisi. And I want to say words of support to Mako Gumuri, the awesome girl who was taking part in this event on 20th of June and who lost an eye. And actually, for any kind of nation, I don't know, Georgians, Russians, Armenians, Azerbaijans, Ukraine, this person, from my point of view, is a symbol of a citizen, of representative of civil society. Because, yes, she lost an eye, but she didn't, cry or act like a victim. She acted like an active person, citizen, fighter, actually, and she still does. So, from my point of view, such person and such young generation as Shota, as his friends, Mako Gumuri, of course, should be the first people to support, should be the first people to talk about, to, inspire somehow them, to help them, not to fight against them. In Russia, it's not like in Georgia. So for Georgia, 20th of June, for example, was the worst day in I don't know how many years. And it was like something not usual. And in Russia, it is usual. In Russia, all the protest activities are ending with thousands of people detained in prisons. Like in August, and in September, there were lots of protest activities in Moscow, where some people know about. It's not a lot of people, unfortunately, because people are very scared. It's about 40,000 going out, and for example, 1,400 people were imprisoned after detained, and several of them have real big terms in prison, like 5 years, 6 years, only for taking part or posting about the protests on Facebook or Twitter. So when we see from Georgia, from other countries, from Western countries, that Russian people are not active, yes, unfortunately, lots of people are not active and they support this propaganda machine and etc. As you maybe know, about 70% of Russian people just don't have foreign passports. So they never seen anything but their own cities, villages, and these lovely TV channels with Dmitry Kiselyov, I think lots of you know this name, and Vladimir Solovyov and other propaganda voices. So for the majority in Russia, freedom and liberty you discuss here very free, without any kind of pressure, is something not real, is something from another world. They don't know what it means in reality, because they never seen it. They didn't see it, of course, in Soviet Union, and they even didn't see it in Yeltsin's time in 90s, because they didn't understand that this is a freedom. They understand that it's a chaos. They didn't know what to do, how to act, what to do with this freedom, and they wanted for some new guy to come and tell them what to do, and he came, as we all know, unfortunately. So the active part of Russian population is very, very afraid, because they have homes, they have relatives, they have families. They don't want to spend 5, 6, 10 years in prison. I can't go to Russia. Many friends of mine can't go to Russia just at all. But people who are still there and who still fight, they're like heroes for me, for example, because every day they're like facing new threats. I don't know, police come into their offices. They're trying to push them using their works, jobs, relatives, friends. They come to their homes. And like it's a daily process. They never stop. Because for Vladimir Putin, it is the only tool to be in power, like more and more and more, to keep being the only Tsar for Russian Federation. And unfortunately, like other countries, like boundary countries, neighbors, it is a threat. Georgia is a threat, Ukraine is a threat, not because of some political or military forces, but because if you guys go for freedom, if you guys go for development, Russian people will see that it's possible. And majority will change this activists, lonely activists on Russian streets. And it will be the end of Putin's regime for sure. So why I really believe that today's talk and discussion is very, very important is for Georgian people not to think that Russia is only like occupier who steal territories, who kill people, and etc. But big amount of people, millions, not many, but millions of people ready to be in normal world, ready to live peacefully with neighbors in democratic society. But maybe they need your help more than you need theirs, for example, because only together democratic forces of our like region can win and defeat the tyranny and some regimes that are stopping us from being free.
Well, my family is kind of divided, and one branch of them lives in Russia. So my grandpa's sister stayed to live in Moscow, even after dissolution of Soviet Union and so on. Well, when I meet them, we kind of have, they come to us, we're family, so on and so on. But when I meet them, I kind of see how good the propaganda machine works. It even works on them. And when I think that, okay, but even during those manifestations, we need someone to contact with, we need someone, it was happening everywhere, right? And we had, it was happening in Moscow, it was happening in Tbilisi, we even had similar posters, similar aesthetics, even similar slogans. We even like took to the streets after 7 o'clock, after our day jobs were done. And we were kind of looking for the people in the oppositional spectrum who thought about Georgia's territorial integrity, who thought about the foreign policy Russia should have after it turns to more like liberal country. And regretfully, it's because we did not search for them very well. We had lots of things to do, and it was we only searched the surface, but we could not find someone who could be we organized some telebridge with to talk about Georgia's territorial integrity, etc., etc. So what has Georgia seen during the years, during the Soviet Union and after the breakdown of Soviet Union, the Yeltsin's government, then the Putin's government, each and every change that occurred, even dramatic change which occurred in Russia, it never benefited Russia in some sense, like okay, Georgia gained freedom, but it was left with problems, with territorial problems, and we don't see, even in the opposition, lots of people talking about Georgia's territorial integrity, talking about that Russia should not interfere in the affairs of their neighbors, and we don't see, even in opposition, with even, for instance, we could take Navalny for an example. We don't see...
Very bad example.
Yeah, but he's a main opposition figure now. We don't see readiness from the Russian opposition even to talk with us as an equal. So we think it's a problem, and I'm interested how we can address this problem, because it seems that some people oppose Putin in Russia. Lots of people do. There are some oppositional parties, but even in those oppositional parties, the people who support Georgia's territorial integrity are the marginal force, even in the opposition. So I'm wondering myself how we can empower Russians to fight back the oppression and at the same time, how to have Georgia's voice heard in Russia.
Even Russian opposition do not care a lot about foreign politics because it's not popular in Russia, and they're politicians, so they need majority of voices. And regarding this fact, they talk about internal problems, about the fridge, about money, about food, and etc. And if they start talking about Georgia, it's a disaster for them, because in Russia, majority, the huge majority, do not know anything about Georgian problems. They do not even know about the war. They think it was some little conflict, 1-2 days something, and it stopped, and that's it. That's why when you had this big protest on 20th of June, for example, it was very surprising for Russian people. They didn't understand what's going on, because they all believed. And actually, after Karasin Abashidze very famous discussion process, even Russian government didn't know in reality that Georgian society is very active and against the Kremlin in this situation. You can talk to me. You can talk to our guys who we talk to every day. We organized on 7th of June the protest activity near Russian embassies in 7 countries to protest occupation of Georgia. It was Russian citizens standing near Russian embassies protesting for Georgia. So I think it is something already. And of course, we're talking about occupation everywhere, where we can. But the problem for me, I understand everything about Russia. I understand everything about Russian people, Kremlin, opposition. But actually, when some Russian people see our activities, for example, and they see I'm going to occupation lines every week. So when they see, I'm very sorry, Georgian police talking to people from FSB doing something on your so-called border or occupation line, they're a little bit surprised. They're asking, where is your police? Where is your, army, something, trying to counter this aggression, if you say it's aggression. I understand that it's not very popular topic, but in reality, the problem is for last many years, the problem of occupation is not on the surface. It's not very covered widely. Not even in Russia, in the United States, in France, in other countries, European countries. It's not the first, second, or third, or fifth topic of discussions. And this is a huge problem. If we just talk about activism in general, all of us, first, of course, younger generation, have to do every day something we will be proud of and our children will be proud of. This is the most important thing. And if in Georgia, it is a question of occupation, so when we get up, we should think, for example, 3 days ago, there were new wave of aggression on occupation lines. I didn't see any activists, I'm sorry to say, but I didn't see any activists on occupation line in Natots this week, for example. Yeah. For me, it's very I'm not saying about Russia now. I understand, we all understand about Russia. Aggressor, occupation, etc. So if we wake up every morning and see news and think, what can we do today for our country? We will go there, we will be there, we will make noise, we will make pressure on your Georgian government. And if you make more pressure on your Georgian government because of occupation-related topics, it will be louder, the government will be louder on international platforms. And in this way, somehow, Russians will also hear it. And maybe United States and European Union one day will finally implement sanctions for Georgia. You never had it since 2008. And now some Georgian representatives state that you don't need it. I don't know, it's your choice. But if you really don't need it, then fine. But if you believe that sanctions should be implemented, so maybe you should ask someone in the government why they don't agree with you.
So we had a chance to be mentioned alongside with the Ukraine on the to sanction Russia, but yes, Georgian government said no, and that's the problem. So when we're talking about fight
Because of no pressure.
Because of no pressure, yeah, it's deliberate politics, foreign politics of current Georgian government to silence Georgia's voice on international arena, and they think that somehow it will if we stay silent and Russia is no longer mad, it will somehow tame Russian ambition. But it has not worked. We have seen that borderization process has started again in the 11th of August. It was on 11th anniversary of Russian-Georgian war. It was 8 August, the day Russians say that the war started, not the say 7 August, and the Georgian government officials agree with them, and they had the anniversary on 8th of August. So the fight to us, when we see that, on the rhetoric level, Georgian government is saying that, okay, we have Euro-Atlantical aspirations, we want to join NATO, we want to join European Union. So yes, we see the circulation of various new officials' appointments and their robust speeches on some conferences or some assemblies, but that's something on rhetoric level. But what we're seeing as an actions, we're seeing that the defense minister doesn't go to the opening ceremony of NATO trainings. President don't go there. Prime minister doesn't go there. That sends a signal. What we see is that for 18 months, we don't have American ambassador because someone in Georgian government thinks that American ambassador can be partial in Georgian politics and he can support opposition, he or she, can support opposition, and they can deny our strategic partner, the superpower, the ambassador, they can say no to America appointing some ambassador, and everybody knows that it's Tbilisi's fault, right? And it's not. We're not with those 18 countries having some procedural. U.S. having procedural problems appointing in embassies throughout the world. So to us, fighting the border, what we observe is Georgia slowly gravitating back under the Russian influence, on the Russian orbit. When this borderization restarts, when we are having this crawling occupation, there's only so much the activists can do when they're not let. Well, for instance, our activists tried to go to Guguti and Kari. Activists can go there and have our press conferences and bring cameras and say once again that occupation is bad and Russia should return to before 2008 status quo, and then what? Okay, it's a matter of responsibility, you should do so, but we cannot expect definitive results from them unless the government is involved, unless the prime minister himself, unless the president himself goes to the occupational lines, brings their international media and says that, okay guys, okay, international community, we are a small country, like 3.7 million, poor, twice as poor as Russia, and per capita, and please, the international pressure is the only thing which can tame Russia's aggression, but they don't do that. We can be like optimists and say that, okay, if we go there each day and every day, then something will change. Well, it will not. It will not, unless the government gets involved in it, unless the government is working with you against the occupation and not against you, not organizing the counter rallies for the anti-occupational rallies, right? So not organizing, not having like proxy powers, oppositions against. They're having is not the opposition. They're having opposition of the opposition in the parliament. So the major problem is that Georgian government does not want to cooperate with Georgian society for ending the occupation. And you said that, well, activism is not fighting not against something, but fighting for something. I completely agree with you. And we fight for our Euro-Atlantic aspirations, which is in our founding document, which is in our constitution.